Hope you all are doing well. Let's move on with our Maya sessions and the lab tutorials. So today's lesson is focusing on something called the rigging. Rigging means you are taking a character that you have modeled. It can be a humanoid or a human character. It can be something like an animal, or it can be a mythical creature like a dragon. Whatever the case, if you want to perform an animation with it, you need to apply a control rig, otherwise known as the skeleton system of that particular character. Now, how to create those and how to control our characters that we have modeled using a skeleton is known as rigging. So we will discuss about that in this particular tutorial. However, you need to understand this is a bit lengthy tutorial, so we will be doing it in two parts. So part 1 we will complete the skeleton system today, and this next week we will focus on how to apply the constraints for that particular skeleton. Without further ado, let's go to the tutorial. So for this I am using Maya 2020 student version, and I have already created a downloaded a model for us to work with. So when you're selecting a model, it's essential that you select a low polygon basic mesh. Do not start with a very high quality high polygon model. With the rigging, it will be difficult for you to continue. Once you have the low polygon mesh, and when you apply the basic skeleton structure to it, then you can add more details and you can work on the sculpting. So I have given you a link in the courseware which contains the character that I am going to use. So I want you to go ahead and download it first and save it on your local drive. So it's a FBX file format. Let's go and import it. So I'm going to go to File, Import, and navigate to the folder that I have my file on. So it's in the FBX or OBJ file format. Let's select OBJ, and you'll be able to see your file that you have downloaded. We go to the folder, so I have it in my D drive. And here it is. So this is a FBX file format. So you can select FBX format here, which basically locate the file. Let me open it, import it. Okay, so when you import, you get your file like this. So this is the model that you are going to work on. So note that the character is in the T pose. That means the hand are straight out. This is because we need to focus on the hand joints, which are not interacting with the leg ones here. If they are very close to the body, if it is not in the T pose, then it will be difficult for us to apply the skin or apply the skeleton or bind the skin. So more on that later. For now, let's set our viewport. So this character is a bit too large. You can see the viewport is very small in this regard. Let's make it smaller. So I'm going to set the scale to 0.1 in scale X, Y and Z. Let's focus on it, frame on it by pressing F key. So I think this size is more than enough. Let's set the other viewports as well. So this is my top viewport. F to frame. I'm going to press number 4 to go to the outline mode or wireframe mode, and in the side view, front view also, frame number 4, side view, frame number 4. I can see the character is visible in all 4 viewports, and we have a clear idea. Going back to the perspective, so we can turn on something called the X-ray mode, which basically allows us to go through or see through this object. So I'm going to turn on the X-ray by going into this viewport toolbar right here. I can see we can see through this object. Okay, now idea is for us to create the basic human skeleton system. Let's see how we can create that. So I can start with any place that I want. For example, I can start with the leg, or I can start with the hands, I can start with the head, I can start with the spine, whatever the case. But I'm going to start with the root bone. Now what you have to understand, in human body there are 206 bones. So if you're going to create all of them, you need to understand how they are structurally connected. and what's the parent bone, how they are connected together. Now for this particular character, we don't need all 206. It depends on what you're creating. So I'm going to show you how to create a rig with the minimum number of bones. But whatever the case, the main bone, the parent bone of any bone in the human body is basically the hip bone. So it's very important that you understand where the hip bone is, and let's continue from that. And renaming is also very important. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the front view, and I'm going to go to the rigging menu set, because we are rigging, so it should be the rigging menu set, skeleton, and I'm going to click on create joints. So it should give me the join tool. Now let me zoom in and find where's my hip joint is going to be. It should be right here. But before I create, I have to double check whether my character is exactly on the middle of the viewport. It's very important that the character should stay in the middle. You can see it is not that balanced, so let's make it balanced. So I'm going to go to the side view, select the character, press W to get the move tool, and let me make sure this is exactly on the middle. Okay. That's about right. It's vital that you place the character exactly in the middle, so we have even distance between the character and the viewport lines. Okay, a little bit to the right. That's fine. Now let's make sure that the values that we have here are the standard values. That means you can see, since I move this character, translate XYZ, rotate XYZ, and scale XYZ, they have different values. But I want to instruct Maya saying that this position of the character, this is the position that I want to identify as 0.0. That means every value here should be 0. So I can do that by resetting or freezing my transformations. To do that, I can select the character, go to modify, there you have something called the freeze transformations. So I can go to the options of the freeze transformations. I can make sure to freeze, translate, rotate and scale all three, and click on freeze transformation. Now you can see basically all the values are reset back to the default value. So at this stage it's on the 0, 0. So that's what we need. Okay, so going back to the front view and activating the skeleton join tool again, create joints. Now the hip bone should be somewhere around here. If I click somewhere around here, here goes, and press enter to complete, you will notice that I have created my hip bone. This is the one. Make it a little bit down, and let's look at from the other viewports and figure out exactly where this should be. Okay, should be a little bit further back, and here we go. So we have the hip bone. So I'm going to rename this while I'm creating this. So I'm going to rename this to hip bone. Renaming is very important. I've renamed it to hip bone. You can simply say hip if you want. Right, so this is the main bone of this particular character. Let's go ahead with the legs. So I'm going to start with a different viewport now to create the leg. Let's go ahead and start with the viewport like front, which is easier for us to work with. Or you can even start with the perspective if you're comfortable with it. Depends on the preference. Let's go ahead. I'm going to go to my front viewport. So I'm going to start with the left upper leg, or it can be right upper leg as well, and the lower leg bone to the leg bone, which is the ankle, toe and fingers, and press enter. You can see you are getting a bone like this. Let's move it to the correct side, and we can click on these bones and we can adjust them properly. Make sure this exactly fits our character's shape. Let's move it here, and this one too here. It's very important that you make sure that the bones are inside of the character. So always verify this by going into different viewports and double check whether they are in the correct place. It's vital that you do this, otherwise the result that you're getting might be not that accurate. So for example, here this is the shoe. I'm going to move it a little bit down and move it up, and this one also I'm going to move it a little bit up. So this is all a fine tuning just to make sure that each and every bone is in the correct place. Okay, doing final adjustments. Can move them a little bit up or down depending on the requirement that you have. Okay, now if you double check, this is the bone that we have here, and you can see we have a small issue with the ankle bone right here, going a little bit out. So in this case, you will find it difficult for you to control this just by clicking on the arrows. The reason for this is that these arrow keys indicate the direction. Now for example, this is Y, this is X, and this is Z. Now this is known as the world axis. That means the directions of this bone are in relative with the world XYZ. But what we need is the axis in relation with the bone's angle. That means the local axis. Now there are two types of axes. You can either move, rotate or scale something in relation to the world axis that we have, or you can do it in relation with the object's perspective, object's angle. So to change this, by default this is in the world axis. You have to hold down the shift key, control key together and right click. So if you hold the shift key, control key and right click, you get a list, and from there change this world axis to object. And now you can see the difference. If I switch back to the world, you will see the arrows are pointing in different directions. This is Y on the top and Z on the this side and X on the front. But if you hold the shift, control and set to object, these are changing. Now this is easier for you to manipulate because it's basically allowing you more area for you to handle this smoothly. Okay, let me move this down a little bit. That's much easier. So I'm happy with the bone setup. I'm gonna change this back to world. Don't forget that you need to change this axis to world axis once you're done with it. Okay, let's rename this. So this one right here, if I press Ctrl A to get that view editor, it says joint 1. I'm going to rename this to this is the left leg of the character. So left underscore upper is the upper leg. So I'm going to rename this to left upper leg. And then this one, let me copy the previous name. This is left lower leg. So I'm going to rename this to lower. So you can say it's a knee. And this one right here, the left angle. It's a left leg angle. And this is left leg toe. And finally this is the left leg fingers. Okay, now if you want to view this hierarchy, you can go to Windows, General Editors, Hypergraph Hierarchy. If you go to Hypergraph Hierarchy, you will see these are the bones that we have. Let me show this so you can see everything together. Now if you click on it, you can see the hierarchy connections: left upper leg, left lower leg, left ankle, left toe, and left fingers. So the parent bone here is the upper leg, and left lower leg is a child of the upper leg, and left ankle is a child of the knee, left leg toe is a child of ankle, and fingers will be a child of toe. Now we need to make sure that we do the same for the other side. However, the problem with the other side is that we need to recreate it. That's tedious work, isn't it? So we don't have to actually, because we can mirror this to the other side. And have you I wanted to focus on the naming that I have used. I use L underscore to indicate that's the left side. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to mirror this to the other side, and I'm going to ask the Maya, when you're mirroring these objects, replace the L underscore with the R underscore. So they will be renamed automatically into right upper leg, right lower leg, right leg ankle, right leg toe, and right leg fingers. Let's see how to do that. So I'm going to select my left upper leg. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to go to skeleton, mirror joint options. There's an option called mirror joint options. I'm going to reset this. So mirror across. So we have used the X and Y. So this is the X. I want to mirror across X and Y. So I'm going to select XY here. I'm going to search for L underscore, and I'm going to replace it with R underscore. So Maya will automatically search for L underscore and replace with R underscore. If you click on mirror, you can see you're getting this to the other side, just like that. Okay, and if you look at the namings of it, you can see in the hierarchy they have been renamed to right upper leg, right lower leg, right leg toe, and right leg fingers. Alright, now both of these legs should be connected to the hip bone. Remember the hip bone that we have created? So both of these leg bones should be originated from the hip bone. That means we have to make sure that left upper leg bone and right upper leg bones are child of the hip bone. Let me show you how we can do this. If you go to Window Outliner, you will see this hierarchy. Hip bone is here, and you have the left upper leg hierarchy, and we have right upper leg hierarchy. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure these two are child of hip bone. I can do that, let me wrap this up, by dragging and dropping the left upper leg into the hip bone. But you know that dragging and dropping is done with middle mouse button using the mouse scroll. Okay, so I'm selecting the left upper leg, using the mouse scroll, I'm going to drag this to the hip bone like this. And when you do that, notice that it creates the connection from the hip to the leg. See? So let me do the same thing for the right upper leg. I'm going to use the mouse wheel, drag and drop to the hip bone. You can see this is connected like that. Okay, now if you expand this, you will see the right upper leg and the left upper leg are children of the hip bone. That's what we need. Okay, so let me go ahead and save this file. In case if we crash the file, let's name it as reading 1. You can give it the name that you want. So we are done with the leg bones. Let's move ahead with the hand bones, or we can start with the spine as well, but I prefer to start with the hands first. So let's find a viewport that gives us a good view. I think this is suitable, the side view. So I'm going to go to the joint tool again, skeleton, create joint. So you can click on the icon right here. So this is my left, or rather character's left upper arm, left lower arm, left hand, left hand controller and the left hand fingers. So this is how I created this. We'll bring this in. You can also do this in the front view as well, or the top view as well. We'll make sure this is properly set in, so you can use the top viewport to bring them into the correct position. Again, you can use the world axis or local axis for this one, whatever the method that you prefer. Okay. Let's use the a different angle for this one. Okay, I'm just confirming that these are in the correct place. Yeah, I think that's what we need. So note that for the fingers I have used only one bone. If you want, you have to create, you can create more bones from this particular branch, but that is not needed because we don't want finger movements for this particular character. Okay, let's rename it. So this is left underscore. I'm going to use the same method. Upper arm is left upper arm, and this one left lower arm. This is left hand, you can say left hand, and this is left hand end, and finally this is left hand fingers. Okay, now let's go to hypergraph hierarchy again. You can go to window, generators, hypergraph hierarchy, and double check whether we have the arm properly. So left upper arm, left lower arm, left hand end, and left hand fingers. Okay, let's go ahead and mirror this as well. So I'm going to go to skeleton, mirror joints. I'm going to use the same way, mirror across XY, search for left underscore, replace it right underscore, and mirror. And you will see the other side also we are getting the skeletons. Let's double check whether they are being renamed properly. So if you go to hypergraph hierarchy again, you'll see it's left upper arm, left lower arm, right hand. So right upper arm, right lower arm, right hand end, and right hand fingers. Okay, now let's create the spine so that we can have a reference where to connect the hands. So I'm going to go with join tool again, and I'm going to use the front view for this one. So I'm going to start the spine from the hip because that's the connection bone. Okay, so if you look carefully, you need to find where the hip bone is. So here it is. You can find it on the side view. So click on it once, and once you click on it, let's continue from there. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So if you look closely, we have our spine created like this. Double check from the different angles whether it's correct. We can do small adjustments actually if you think that we should be a little bit in front. I think that's what we need. So you have the spine going through the character like that. Okay, right, let's connect the two hands. Now two hands should be connected to the collarbone of the character. So let's create two collarbones. It should be somewhere here, so I'm going to get the join tool. One collarbone should be somewhere around here. I'm going to click on it, enter. It's a single bone, and I'm going to drag it to the front where the collarbone is. So let's double check again where it should be. Somewhere here. A little bit down, I believe. Okay, let's rename this to is the right collar. And let's duplicate this to the other side. So when you're duplicating this to the other side, it should have the same distance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find out what's the value for the translate Z. I'm going to copy that, copy this, and then I'm going to press Ctrl D to get a duplicate, and the translate so should be minus the same amount. Okay. So now you get a copy to the other side with the exact distance. Now we have to parent this again because the spine should be connected to the collarbone, and then the hand should be connected to the collarbone again. So let's do that first. So again we need to connect this one with the collar. So previously what we did, we went to the outliner and we dragged and dropped it, but there is another way to do this. Let me show you how we can do this. So let me show you dragging and dropping first. So if you are dragging and dropping, what you have to do is the right upper arm should be a child of right collar, so you can simply drag and drop this to right collar like this. So you will have a connection. But let me show you another way. I can select the child bone, and then with the shift key I can select the parent bone. Okay, and press P on the keyboard, letter P on the keyboard, which means P for parent. So that's also the same way. If you don't want to drag and drop, you can select the child bone. With the shift key you can select the parent bone and press letter P on the keyboard. They will be connected. Now these two collarbones should be connected to spine. So let's rename the spine. Okay, so this was hip, and this one I'm going to rename to spine 1, spine 1, and this one spine 2, next one spine 3, spine 4, and this is neck 1, this is neck 2, this is head 1, and this is head 2. Okay, now if you look at the bone structure, we have the hip bone, spine 1, spine 2, spine 3, spine 4, neck 1, neck 2, head 1 and head 2. Okay, so I'm going to connect my collar to spine 4 right here. So my collarbone should be connected to spine 4. So I can use the same method. You select the child bone first, select the parent bone with the shift key, press P, and they are connected like that. And do the same for this one. Select the child bone with the shift key, select the parent, press P, and they are connected. So you can see the bones have a structure like this now. And if you do this properly, when you select the hip bone, everything should be selected because that's the parent bone. So you can see when I select my hip bone, everything gets selected. just like that. Okay, let's go ahead and save this. Let's go to hypergraph hierarchy, Windows, General Editors, hypergraph hierarchy. Let's see whether our hierarchy is correct. So everything should be a child of the hip bone. See? So we have the upper leg, left leg, right leg, spine, right collar, and the left collar. Okay, we forgot to rename one of the collars here. This should be left collar. So I'm going to rename this to left collar, which I forgot to do previously. By some reason, when you select on the middle this bone, if everything doesn't get selected, you need to select everything, every bone, and select the hip bone, go to skeleton and click on reroute skeleton. You can do this if you have made a mistake. You can select all the bones and click to go to select skeleton, click on reroute selection, which will basically convert your hip bone into the root bone. Okay, so that's it for the fast one. Now next part will be to create controllers for this particular leg and how to bind it. So we'll continue that in a different lesson. I will upload the video number 2. For now, you need to download this character, which I have provided the link in the course web, and create the skeleton, save the file, and you need to upload the file as a Maya binary file onto the course web link provided. So we will meet again in the second part of this tutorial.